and director of the honors program. So this is one busy woman. She came to Manchester full-time in 2016 as an associate professor in the music department, and also was the director of piano studies then. So she is a gifted pianist. You may have heard her perform with the Manchester Symphony Orchestra as a guest artist. She has performed with other orchestras as well. Her latest performance was at the end of March. You may have heard of the Grand Time program at Honeywell's, which has 12 grand pianos and over 80 performers. So she was one of those performers for a really good evening. Okay, in terms of academics, Pam earned her bachelor's degree from DePaul University, her master's degree from the University of Ohio, and her doctorate from the University of Kansas. Along with all the amazing things that she's done, she's also raised 6 children with her husband.
7, actually. I might have typed that wrong.
Okay, well, you can add a postscript.
That's all right.
So anyway, you can see the title of our presentation up here, and we'll hear about Manchester students' ability to study abroad.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming out to listen. So that was excellent what you just read about me. So first of all, before we launch into this, I have only been the director of study abroad, which we're now calling study away. This is my 2nd year of doing that. So I'm still a little bit fresh, and a lot of the history of Manchester Study Abroad program I don't know as well. You might know more. So I will be able to fill you in on what's happening now, give you what I know, what little bit that I know beforehand, but to let you know what is still thriving and vibrant, especially post 2020. And the pandemic really changed things away, which I'm sure you know that as far as travel and all of that. So let us launch into things. First of all, I want to ask you, just show of hands if you're willing to do that. How many of you have ever traveled overseas before? So I've assumed that probably many of you had. That's fantastic. So let me just go ahead and go on and tell you a little bit about my experience. So as you heard, my undergraduate degree is from DePaul, which is in Greencastle, Indiana. And my first study abroad experience, I went to Vienna, and this was during the fall of my junior year there. And DePaul had an annual group that would go of music students to study in Vienna. And so I kind of launched into a program that was very much established there. And what's interesting about it is one of the providers that we use now to send students was the same provider that that had done this program I had gone on. So you'll get to hear more about that group later on. So I went there because I wanted to study music. My first degree is actually in choral education. And at the time, I didn't even really understand what a graduate student was or going beyond that. So I thought I was going to teach high school choirs, maybe some little kids, But my experience in Vienna really changed my focus on what I could do with my life. And so when I was there, I studied with a famous pianist by the name of Hans Graf, and I would study with him at the Hochschule in Vienna, or at his home. And it was through working with him that it really inspired me to go ahead and teach piano rather than just focus on teaching choir. So after I came back, I started to think, okay, I don't know if I want to teach kindergarten through 12th grade. Maybe I want to look beyond that. And so heading into my senior year, when I student taught, I already knew I wanted to go into graduate school. So, but being in Vienna really launched that for me because it was the city of music, of all the greats, thinking that Schubert walked here, or Mozart walked here, all of that. The other thing that really impressed me on this trip was it was my first time to fly. So if you can imagine, and I grew up here in Indiana, rural Indiana. Denver is the town that I'm from, so not too far from here. So this was a big trip for a little small town girl, right? To fly all the way to Austria back when there were no cell phones. I know you can all recall that, right? The only way you could really talk to somebody is on a landline, but it was so expensive to make international calls. So I talked to my parents maybe once per month was all, and we wrote a lot of letters. You know, the airmail letters, how thin that paper is. So it was a fantastic experience. And so this is one of the reasons, because of the impact that it had on me, that I want to share this with students at Manchester. So right now, these are the providers and places their students have gone to starting in the last few years. So my predecessor, and you all know Thelma Rohr, was there and did so much with study away and study abroad. And so the main, what we call a third party provider at the time, was BCA. Have you heard of Brethren Colleges Abroad? And I know this is why I was asked to come and speak, you know, to hear, are we still sending students through there? Well, BCA had been functioning since 1962. And then in 2019, they joined with another group called Amazaji, which would also provide study abroad trips. So that was in 2019, the year before COVID and all of that, right? And so once COVID hit, things were shut down. People were not sending students abroad for obvious reasons. And then the last time that BCA posted anything that I had seen was in 2020. And so then they had joined with Amazaji, and then Amazaji then transformed into a group that's now called All People Be Happy. And it's really changed. Like after the pandemic, BCA, which is also the name change to Bridge Connect Act, they started doing virtual study abroad experiences. So if you can imagine, you're on your laptop, but you're studying in some other country. Not the same, those of us that have gone, as an immersive experience, right? So I have not been able to find any more information on BCA. So it's been kind of absorbed into Amazaji, which then was absorbed into this All People Be Happy. Which they're still sending, they're doing group trips and things like that, but it's not somebody who we've worked with since coming out of like post-pandemic world. So Thelma had stepped away from the university and retired, and it was in 2021 or 2022. And so then 2021. And so then I took over in 2022. And we were only just starting to send students abroad and overseas again at that point in time. So when I got there, there were students that wanted to go to Japan for sure. So our partner with Hokusei, and so I'll tell you more about them as we go along. And then there was a student who always wanted to go to New Zealand since she had gotten there, and another student that wanted to go to Spain. And so those were the first students that I had worked with. And we just made a connection with the third-party provider, Arcadia Abroad. So I'm going to tell you about them first. We also have a partnership with the Chicago Center for Urban Studies. And so some of our students stay, within the States and go there, and they student teach in downtown Chicago, or they work with social services. And these are a lot of our social work and criminology students that go and do that. So that brings me full circle to say why we are going by study away rather than study abroad, because we want to encapsulate both international and domestic study experiences. By the way, you're welcome to raise your hand and ask me a question at any point in time, or tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast. So Arcadia Abroad, there's lots of words on here, which again, I don't usually like to do that in a presentation, but it also helps me to keep track of what I wanted to share. I pulled this from their website. So you can see by the large numbers, they've sent about 70,000 students have studied abroad through Arcadia University. That says creating a diverse and successful alumni of all ages, professions, locations. So right now they have 130 plus programs in 15 countries around the world. So very much established. And at the university, my direct report, who I work for, is Celia Cook Huffman, the vice president of academic affairs. And so before I started this role, she had worked through an MOU with Arcadia. So we became a membership with them, so that we could send students through them to go study abroad. And so you can see they started in 1948. And the first group was, it was Beaver College at the time. And I remember being in Vienna, and there were other students from liberal arts schools there. Denison was one of them, and Beaver was the other one. But we were all part of that same program and being involved in that. So this is Arcadia. The university is in Pennsylvania, and I got to go visit there last year and meet some of the people that are involved in that and in charge of things there, so which is good. So let me tell you a little bit about our involvement with them. So we're part of what's called a group of universities that's called the Inclusive Excellence Coalition. And so what it is, it's committed to